In today's exercise, I'll show you the best exercise to practice target notes. This is an exercise you should practice every day. It'll not only help you memorize tunes, but it will also give you insight into the harmonic progression from a more linear perspective. Choose any jazz standard, let's say Alice in Wonderland. Step 1, chord tones. This is a prep step, or a prerequisite, if you will. If you can do this step with ease, I'd recommend starting on step 2. But if you're struggling with this first step, keep at it until you master it. I would not try step 2 until then. Choose any chord tone and play the entire tune by just playing that chord tone for every chord in the progression. Remember, a chord tone is any of the notes in a chord up to the 7th. So if you see an A7 flat 9, the chord tones will be the root, A, the 3rd, C sharp, the 5th, E, and the 7th, G. In this step, we're not going to worry about tensions, such as the flat 9 found in this chord. So you can think of chord tones as root, 3rd or 4th, 5th, and 7th or 6th. For example, if you choose to work on the 3rd of the chord, you would play the major 3rd, E, over a C major 7. But over C minor 7, you'd have to play E flat, the minor 3rd. And for a C7 sus 4, you'd have to play an F, the sus 4. Remember, there's no 3rd on a C7 sus 4. Same goes to the 7 or the 6th. On a C major 7, you'd play B, the 7th. But on a C6, you'd have to play an A, the 6th. I like to play the tune 4 times in a row to cover all the chord tones. So here's Alice in Wonderland playing the root. The 3rd or the 4th. The 5th, and the 7th. So as I said before, if this step was too hard or just really challenging, you can just practice this step. You don't need to move on to step 2. In fact, it might be better for you to repeat step 1 over a different tune rather than moving on to step 2. And by the way, we have a collection with all the jazz standards from the real book, all laid out for you with chord tones, tensions, and lines. So check that out on our website, mdex.com. I'll put a link to these books in the description down below because you might find that material really helpful. And of course, all of our members will have access to a PDF with all the steps applied to Alice in Wonderland. If you find that PDF useful, you'll know how valuable having the entire real book with target notes will be. Step 2, guide tone lines. This is the best step in today's exercise by far. If you know your chord tones really well, you can certainly skip step 1 and start with this step. The guide tones are the 3rd or the 4th in a sus4 chord and the 7th or the 6th in 6 chords. So your goal is to create a line as smooth as possible that goes from guide tone to guide tone across the entire tune. Why do we want to do this? Well, the essential or most fundamental color in a chord is defined by the guide tones. You can just play the guide tones on your left hand on a 2-5-1, for example, and have the essence of that progression present. When you create a guide tone line, you're tracing the harmonic progression in the most effective way possible. A good guide tone line reveals the secrets behind the chord progression. It offers the best picture of what a tune's harmony is all about. This is an ear training exercise like no other. Learning how to walk these guide tones is one of the best things that you can do to improve your improvisational skills. Let's just do a guide tone line over a 2-5-1. Let's say D minor 7, G7 to C major 7. What are the guide tones on D minor 7? Well, F the 3rd and C the 7th. On G7 we have B and F, and on C major 7 we have E as the 3rd and B as the 7th. Now you can see the smoothest lines are F, F, E and C, B, B. These two lines are tracing the 2-5-1 in a way that reveals what a 2-5-1 progression is all about. Check it out, I can just add the root of the chords and play the guide tone lines, and the essence of the 2-5-1 really comes to life. Notice how the 3rd of the D minor 7 chord turns into the 7th of the G7, and then moves down to the 3rd of C major 7. Or the 7th of D minor 7 moves down to the 3rd of G7, which then turns into the 7th of C major 7. Try your best to move between 3rds and 7ths while creating a smooth line. In other words, target the 3rd and the 7th, avoiding big leaps. Don't worry if you play a few leaps. Not all progressions have a smooth solution like the 2-5-1. Just try your best to move as little as possible from note to note. If you want, you can write the lines down at first or get the target notes book we mentioned before. We have an entire volume in that collection with lines over every single tune in the real book. Also, there are 2 starting points for every song. You can start by targeting the 3rd on the 1st chord, or the 7th. By the way, if you're going to practice any of these steps, this is the most important one, so don't skip it. So, step 3, tensions. This is a more advanced step since ideally it requires that you consider the chord scale for each chord in the progression. So if you're not ready for this step, don't worry, just practice steps 1 and 2. Let me first explain this step so that you can decide whether or not you're ready for it. Remember, you can come back later to this video by just clicking on the cover of the PDF. So the word tensions is actually an abbreviation for the term extensions. These are the notes in a chord that go over the octave, the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th. What makes these notes a bit harder to manage is the fact that they're not always available to you. Even further, some chords require that you alter these tensions. For some chords, the flat 9 or the sharp 9 are better than the regular 9. Or the sharp 11 or flat 13 could also be better options. And many times these tensions are avoid tensions and shouldn't be used at all. The hardest part of this is that most of the time these tensions are not indicated in the chord symbols. But that doesn't mean that they aren't available to you. This is a huge misconception among many musicians, mostly pop or rock players, that the chord symbol alone represents the entire chord. When you see a C7 to F major 7, you should look at it as a 5-1 in major. And that implies that C7 offers any note from the Mixolydian scale. In other words, that C7 is a C7, 9, 11, 13. All tensions are natural in that C7 chord. And while the 9 and the 13 are available tensions, the 11 is an avoid tension because it's a half step above a guide tone. F, the 11th, is a half step above E, the 3rd. We did a great video on this topic for our upper structures course that you should watch if you're interested on how tensions really work. Anyway, on this step, we're going to choose one of the tensions. Let's say tension 9. Make sure you play the correct alteration. Some chords, like this D minor 7 Dorian, will take tension 9. Others, like this A7 flat 9, will obviously take tension flat 9. And by the way, if it takes tension flat 9, it also takes tension sharp 9, and vice versa. Remember, flat 9 and sharp 9 are always interchangeable. If tension 9 is an avoid tension, like in this E minor 7 Phrygian, just play the root of the chord. Yes, this is a harder step to master. And the same goes to the 11 and the 13. Remember to substitute the 11th with the 3rd and the 13th with the 5th if they aren't available. So I like to play the tune 3 times in a row. One with the 9th or the root. Then the 11th, or the 3rd. And finally, the 13th, or the 5th. And finally, of course, time for free play. Before you finish your practice session, remember to always practice free play. Improvise over the tune of your choice. Don't overthink it. You'll see how your ears will start guiding you towards these target notes without you even trying. Do this exercise every day and see how your understanding of the harmonic progression via target notes takes the way you improvise to the next level. We hope you appreciated today's video. All of our members, like I said, will have access to a PDF of today's exercise. If you'd like to become a member, go ahead and click on the join button or the link down below. You can also check out our website, mdex.com, for all sorts of useful music tools. YouTube seems to think you're gonna like one of these 2 videos here, so go ahead and stick around, watch one of those. Leave a comment down below. It really helps out the channel. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.